Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Junior Parent Night. My name is Elaine Schwartz, and I'm Director of Guidance. I would like to begin by saying have a very happy and healthy New Year to all of you. And thank you for coming out in this freezing cold weather. If you can survive that freezing cold, you can survive the college process with your child, I guarantee. I want to thank Jim Honeycutt, who is up there in the balcony filming this, so that if anyone that you know has missed it or you'd like to see it again, it will be both on cable TV and on YouTube. I also want to thank two students who you saw out there distributing materials. They are seniors. They will be coming back later on in the program to tell you a little bit about their experience with the college process. So to begin with, I would like to introduce our wonderful principal, John Dodig, who'd like to say a few words, and we are going to miss him terribly next year.
Thank you. I keep reminding myself that it's better than the opposite. It's better than everyone saying, thank God the guy's going. Well, I'm not going to do it. But this evening is a pivotal meeting, and you'll see quickly that your children are in good hands. If you've gone through this before, you know that. Actually, I think after 11 years, I can say that, in my opinion, there's no need to pay for private counseling for college. These people know what they're doing. So put your faith in their hands, and they will guide you through the process, step by step. When I thought about what I wanted to share with you, what I've learned from all of these years, I'm going to graduate after 47 years working in school. It took me a long time. I'm a slow learner, and it'll be 11 years here. It is that, honestly, except for a few of you, you have no idea what your son or daughter will be doing 10 years from now. For a number of reasons. One, what they wind up doing hasn't been invented yet. Two, they'll come upon something even next year. They'll take the course to fill their schedule and find out that they actually love it. I can't tell you the number of kids who write to us who are now working with famous chefs, executive chefs overseas, who are doing wonderful things in art and in music and TV and radio, and had no idea that that's where they would wind up. They just happened to fill their schedule with one of those courses and fell in love with it. So let me read something to you. If you came to one of my PTA coffees, you may have heard this. I won't be offended if you put your fingers in your ears, but I think it's so appropriate for what you're going to be going through tonight. This was an email sent from a youngster who graduated, I think, 2 years ago. I knew him very well. And he wrote to Mr. Sanser, who works in the old wood shop. Now it's called Technology. And he said, Mr. Sanser, I was finishing preparations for a presentation regarding our material selection process for a high-performance piston connecting rod when a thought hit me. Several days ago, I was asked why I chose to study mechanical engineering. And I didn't really know how to respond. My first thought was my love of Legos at a young age. But today I realized it had almost nothing to do with that. I realized that the reason I even tried to get into the school I'm in or pursue engineering in the first place was the exposure I had to the technical field as a freshman through your class. In this light, I want to let you know how I appreciate your unstoppable enthusiasm for teaching and your willingness to let students come into themselves through the processes of design and manufacturing. Had I not taken this class, I don't know if I would have considered engineering as a career, and I would never have been exposed to the nuances associated with working in a field that I love. They say that if you love your work, you'll never work a day in your life. I don't believe that, but I do believe in hard work, and that if you love your work, you will enjoy your career more than most people do. This goes without saying, but thank you, Mr. Sanser. Thank you for keeping people interested in the technical facets of life, and thank you for making high school fun. All the best. He actually writes well, too. But here's a kid, when I met him as a sophomore, I never, after all of my years, if you had said, put $20 on what this kid would be when he is in college or as an adult, I never would have picked engineering. So this was a real surprise to me. It's a delight for any teacher. I think every teacher who I've ever known secretly wants one of these once in your career. One of these that says, you changed my life in a positive way. So the reason I shared that with you is you really don't know. I mean, there are some of you who have a daughter or a son who you know since kindergarten, wants to be a physician or an accountant like mom or whatever. But for most of us, we really don't. So don't fret. Don't put a lot of undue pressure on your child next year and the rest of this year. Have faith in your child's counselor, and all will come out. And even though I'm leaving, you will be guided through the administration by a woman who, by the way, has just been chosen as the Connecticut Assistant Principal of the Year, Karen Morgan. So she'll be here, and she'll be here to shake hands with your children when they graduate next June, and I will sneak in the back door in the field house because I have to see them graduate. So I'll be there too. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. And I am Karen Morgan, the Connecticut Assistant Principal of the Year. We're going to come back tomorrow. You know, you must know that the only way that I could have ever achieved such an honor, and I'm truly humbled by it, is because of all of you, and really because of all of your wonderful children. I feel so very blessed to be part of this district and be part of your family, because that's how I really see us, as a family, that we work together, we're a team together. So I thank all of you for this honor. I stand here, I don't stand here alone, I stand here with all of you, with all of these wonderful guidance counselors. I stand here especially with my John Dodick, who I will miss terribly, and with your babies. So thank you so very much. But I just want to reiterate kind of what John was talking about, and that is, we have 3 semesters left together. And I know that these 3 semesters can get really tough on our kids, and I see them so often. They fall apart in my office, they fall apart in guidance, and they feel so overly stressed. And please remember, they're still children in so many, many ways. And remember that, and bring out the things that are important to them. Help them to laugh, and help them to enjoy the rest of these 3 semesters. It's going to be over very soon. And then they're going to be in college, and they're going to be gone. So enjoy this time. I beg of you, please enjoy this time. It goes over, it's in a flash, and it's done. So thank you so much for sharing those babies with me. I love each and every one of them. I thank you, I'm humbled by this, and call me if you need me.
Thank you, John and Karen, so much. So soon you're going to meet our very hardworking and wonderful counselors. They're going to introduce themselves as they do the presentations. But first, I'd like to just say, we know that the college search process is overwhelming and stressful for the entire family. Our goal is to help lessen that stress for you. So with that in mind, I'd like to begin with 7 signs that you may be a stressed out parent. Sign number 1. You attend these junior parent nights while your child is still in middle school. Anybody here doing that right now? Hope not. Number 2, you propose the Fisk Guide to Colleges as your book club selection of the month. Number 3, you put the high school counselor's home number on speed dial. Number 4, you revive an old friendship with your obnoxious in-law who graduated from Duke. It's one of my favorites. Number 5, you send flowers to phone receptionists at Amherst, Wesleyan, and Tufts. Number 6, you house hunt in Wyoming to enhance your child's geographic appeal to the Ivies. And number 7, you wake up your son or daughter each morning with a CD of the Ivy League fight songs. Now that's a great way to get them angry at you, for sure. But anyway, back to reality. How many of you are going through this for the very first time, this process? Good number. And how many of you have done this before? Okay, good. All right. So whether this is your first time or not, what all of us in here want for your children is the same as what you want for your children, and that is for them to find the right fit and for them to find a place that they feel healthy and happy. So just know that we're going to take you through this process step by step. And remember that each child will go through it in his or her own pace. So that is fine, not to worry about that. Everyone gets through it. Some may take some may be a little bit ahead, some may be a little bit behind. But don't worry about what others are doing and saying, and don't listen to everyone around you. Just do what's right for your child. And remember to keep your child's information confidential. No one needs to know their SAT scores, their ACT scores, their GPA. I think, what we take to kids is a very simple answer when someone asks them that question is just, I did fine on my SATs. I'm doing fine in school. That's really all they need to say. So just for now, let me review the sequence of events that have happened so far this year. In October, many of your children took the PSAT and they received their results in December. In December, your children were trained through our College and Career Center on Naviance. Also in December, the counselors went into their English classes and gave them the same information you will be receiving this evening. Later on tonight, you're also going to hear about the individual family appointments that will happen after midterm exams. So for now, just think about what your children are actually thinking about. Remember that right now, they're worried about many things. They're thinking about their grades, about their midterms, about homework, about their sports, their clubs, all their activities. And they're also thinking about colleges right now and what's going to happen. Will they get rejected? Most of all, they're probably thinking about what their friends are doing right now and who likes them. But we need to be here to help them relax and enjoy their high school years and enjoy their friends and their family. We need to work together to be the calming influence for our children. We need to take care of them. Always remember, as Karen Morgan said before, they really are still children. Even though they're trying to act very grown up and be independent, they really do need us. So once we conclude our general presentation, you're going to hear from the two students that I mentioned before who are giving out the materials, and they'll tell you their experience with the college process. Then all of you will be going to a classroom. The room numbers will be listed for you in the presentation, and you're going to meet in a small group with your counselor. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please jot them down because the classroom will be the right time to ask those questions. You've received some materials tonight. Please be sure to read that post-high school planning guide. I saw some of you thumbing through it as I was walking up and down the aisle, and I'm glad that you did because it's filled with great and important information. So before we begin, let me just leave you with the reassurance that everything really will work out okay for your children. Trust the process and journey that you and your children are about to take because going through it will assure you and your child that the right college is going to happen for them. And just remember that we're here to take you every step of the way.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christine Tallarico. Even though our school statistics do show very clearly that 93% of our students immediately go on to four-year college, just wanted to make you aware that there are many other options, and your child's counselor would be happy to speak with you about any of those. Okay, starting back in the 9th grade, your sons and daughters were introduced to our College and Career Center. In the 9th grade, they completed a personality type indicator called Do What You Are, which is very similar and based on the Myers-Briggs type indicator, if any of you have taken that for employment. And in 10th grade, they completed an interest inventory called the Interest Profiler, along with completing a resume. This current year, as Elaine said, in the month of December, all juniors were instructed on the use of Naviance, which included, but was not limited to, how to perform a college search and how to use the scattergram feature, which Mr. Heidig will explain in a couple of the next slides. Sometimes your sons and daughters have just a quick question for a counselor, And in response to this need, we've created walk-in hours for students in the College and Career Center. So a counselor is on duty 4 days a week during all 3 lunch periods to just drop in. There's no magic formula for choosing a college. Your children can start by asking themselves some questions that will help them find the right fit, such as 2-year or 4-year college, public or private, close to home or within a certain radius from home, a big rah-rah sports school or a smaller, more liberal school, cost, major. Many students think they have to know what their major will be before they start college. There's plenty of time to decide on a major, and a lot of students change their major more than once. Don't get stuck on things like a college's reputation, rank, or selectivity. What's more valuable is how well a college's academic and social style fits your son or daughter. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ed Heider. The family meeting, you may begin calling the guidance secretary right now to schedule an appointment for your daughter, your son, and myself, or your guidance counselor. And that really is going to kick off the post-high school planning process, that first meeting. Appointments begin on Monday, the 20th of January. All appointments are held during the school day and need to be scheduled during your child's free period. We ask that you arrive to this meeting prepared. Very important. Familiarize yourself with the post-high school planning guide beforehand. Now, there's 2 books that Staples High School puts out every year, and they happen to be my 2 favorite books. One is the Student Handbook, which you might remember from a few years ago, and you still may have reason to look into it from time to time. The other is the Guide to Post-High School Planning. Familiarize yourself, has a wealth of information. Have your child perform a college search on Naviance and bring it into that initial meeting. And don't worry if that list is like about 70, 80, or 90 colleges. It's okay. That first list, we've seen it all. It's all right. Bigger is better at the beginning, to tell you the truth. Review your son or daughter's PSAT scores, which you recently received home prior to the holiday break, and be familiar with your son or daughter's cumulative GPA, which will be updated right after the midterms. Naviance Family Connection is something that you're going to get used to, one would hope, and become very familiar with. It's a web-based program, and it incorporates historical and statistical data, all about Staples High School, and some of the decision patterns that have been made over the past 3 years. Students and parents use the same username and password, and if you've misplaced your password, simply call the College and Career Center where they'll hook you up. Naviance training is also something that the guidance department offers. If you go on the Staples High School guidance website under Naviance Family Connection, you become familiar with what dates and times that training is going to take place. And the scattergram that Ms. Talarico mentioned before is really it's a useful tool once you plot particular data in it. And the data that you're going to be plotting, or in this case, the PSAT should be already there, but the GPA, the weighted GPA, as well as updated SAT and ACT scores, which the school will be putting in for you. Ultimately, those variables, in your choice of a particular school, you'll push a button and you'll take a look at something like this, which is going to give you a visual, only based, remember, on numbers only, but it will give you an idea as to the relative chance your son or daughter has to get into any given school. You'll become familiar with it, we'll talk about it, and again, it's a very useful tool. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leslie Hammer. If you're here this evening on behalf of your firstborn, you may not be aware of all the various components that college admissions offices take into consideration when they evaluate applicants. As you can see, there are a lot of factors that come into play. I'll just give you a brief overview of them now because we'll talk about most of them in more depth later in the program. Arguably the most important of the factors is your student's curriculum. These are the courses that your son or daughter has taken, the level of their classes, and their grades in the classes throughout their high school career. Combined, these are our college's best indicator of a student's ability to do college-level work and the best predictor of their success in being able to do so. After these first few items, most of the rest of these are components of the application itself. Most colleges do want to see standardized test scores, so nearly all of our students will take either the SAT or the ACT or both. Colleges usually want to see a student's writing, so they almost always require a personal narrative, which is often a part of, say, the common application if they're applying that way. They may also ask for smaller supplemental essays and/or a writing sample in form of a graded paper. This would be used especially if the student is not submitting standardized test scores. Colleges will take into consideration the students' extracurricular activities. These are arts, sports, paid employment, volunteer commitments. They will read recommendation letters from their counselor and from usually one or two of their academic teachers. They'll do their best to get a sense of how interested the student actually is in their school and therefore how likely they would be to attend if they're admitted. Students can demonstrate interest by visiting campuses, by interviewing if that's an option for them, and by meeting with college representatives in our College and Career Center when they visit Staples in the fall. Finally, there are some factors that are pretty much out of a student's control. It's widely agreed that diverse academic communities foster broader perspectives, deeper understanding, and empathy. So diversity, ethnic and geographic, is another factor. Most colleges also need to take into account a student's ability to pay, unfortunately. Higher education really is a business. And often, they may have institutional priorities that you and we may know nothing about at all. They might be looking for students for a new dance program, for instance, or a particularly under-enrolled major, or maybe they're only the Zoom players graduating this year. These will vary from school to school and from year to year, so it's very difficult to try to game the system in this way. One of the most important pieces of the student's application is their transcript, which Staples sends to colleges at the student's request. This is an example of what our transcript looks like. If you haven't seen your son or daughter's transcript already, you can find it on the Home Access Center. It's simply a list of the courses, the levels, the grades, and the credit that they've earned. Only final grades for every class is shown, and it also reflects two different GPAs, the academic and the overall. The academic GPA reflects the cumulative weighted grade point average for all academic classes. So these are their English, social studies, math, science, and world language classes. The overall GPA includes those academic subjects plus physical education, arts classes, and other elective courses as well. That GPA is not weighted. Sometimes there's confusion around why the GPA that's shown on the report card doesn't match the one that you will see on their transcript. This is because the report card only shows the overall GPA for that quarter only. It's not cumulative. The school profile is also sent by us to colleges along with the student's transcript. This gives admissions offices a snapshot of the kind of community that we are here in Westport and of the caliber of our high school. Many colleges already know Staples very well, but some don't. The school profile provides a lot of information to help them place Staples in the context of other high schools around the country. And it also gives them a picture of this particular class. For example, while we don't rank our students, the bar graph on here does show, it sort of gives a rough idea of the breakdown and will give them a good sense of where a given student stands within their graduating class. A strong senior year schedule is vital. We are sitting down with each of our current juniors the week before starting the week before the February break to schedule next year's classes, and we work really closely with students and the teachers to come up with what we hope will hopefully be just the right mix of appropriately challenging classes for them. We urge students to continue to take a strong curriculum throughout their high school career, but equally importantly, we urge them to carefully consider their academic life in the context of everything else that senior year will bring them, and and this includes the extra demands of the college application process itself. Once transcripts are sent to colleges, students cannot change their schedule. So it's really, really important that they think very carefully now about their senior year classes and put together a course schedule that they feel very comfortable that they will be successful in completing. Final high school transcripts are sent to the college that your child indicates to us that they will be attending. So it's important that they finish strong all of those. Most importantly, though, we want them to feel great about their senior year, confident in their accomplishments here, and secure in their ability to move beyond high school and thrive.
Good evening. My name is Peter Washenko. I'm going to talk to you about college entrance exams. Now, there's two exams that are out there, the SAT and the ACT, and you may hear the SAT subject test. Some schools may require one or the other, SAT or the ACT. They are interchangeable, so your student will have to take both. But the important thing to remember is that for PSAT, your students came into guidance, and that's where they register for that exam. Now they have to go to these websites that are listed above, create an account, and register for a testing date at a testing center for these upcoming exams. Now, these are exams that are going to be, a few hours long. Based on how your students did in the PSAT, you may want to see if the SAT is an appropriate exam or the ACT is an appropriate exam. Sometimes students don't test well, and they don't want to go through another standardized test, and they may want to consider a test optional school. And there's a link on here called fairtest.org that lists all the schools in the country that are test optional. Now, some of those schools are American University, Brandeis University, Connecticut College, and there's hundreds on there. So if it's something that they say, you know what, I like my college to look at everything else minus the test scores because I don't think that's going to help me, you should have them check out that list because it could definitely be helpful. When it does come time for your student to send their test scores to the colleges, they're going to do this themselves through these websites that are listed above. We do not send test scores. They get the official scores from those official programs, so they will do that themselves. They will do it during senior year when applications are ready to go out, whenever that might be. You may have heard that the SAT is changing a little bit. This is not going to apply to the junior class. The new SAT, when it comes out, it's going to be in the springtime of next year. By that time, your seniors will have completed their testing, and it would not be applicable to the application process for them, so it's not something that's going to affect them. When you look at the two exams, the SAT versus the ACT, there are some differences, so it's good to have an idea of which one is the most appropriate one. The SAT is a little bit longer. There is Algebra 2 on there, and writing is required. ACT is a little bit shorter. There's science on the ACT, and writing is optional. SAT is more applied knowledge. ACT is curriculum based. So you want to have a conversation with your juniors to say, where are you most comfortable? How did the PSAT go? Do we need to look at an ACT? On the websites that we had before, they actually have practice exams that are on there. So they can take a shot at either one and kind of see how they go. They don't go anywhere, see where they're more comfortable, and then maybe take that exam there. The SAT subject test that I did mention before, these are specialized tests. They're 1 hour long. They're subject specific for that one particular subject area, and it's something that is only required by some very selective schools. It's a very small list of schools. Students can take up to 3 in one sitting. That's a long day, for 3 different subject areas, so they want to consider maybe only 2 or kind of see what's most appropriate at that time. We do have staples classes that would help prepare them for these exams. They might be like a pre-calculus honors class or a calculus class that would prepare them for like a Math 1 or Math 2 exam. So we actually have a chart in the booklet that we gave you. It's on page 21, and it'll list the staples course with the equivalent SAT subject test in there. So if your son or daughter are currently taking one of those classes, it might be a good idea to start asking some questions. Should I take the subject test? Is this something that is required? When you start to do the college searches, look at the website to say, does the school require a subject test? Is this something I need to plan for? We encourage all our students to wait until the later spring to take their subject test if it is required, because if they are taking that class, they'll have completed the majority of that class, so they'll be pretty much prepared for that exam. Maybe they're studying for finals around that time as well, so there's not a lot of extra work they have to do or a lot of extra prep. So it might be a good timing to take it then. And at the list, here's a list of the subject tests that are on there. One thing to keep in mind, the world language exams, it's our understanding that they're extremely difficult. And in some cases, it seems like they're geared more towards native speakers. So it's something that, your students have a very strong understanding of the material beyond just enjoying the language. So That particular subject test, we would definitely say have an in-depth conversation with the world language teacher of that subject to see, is it something I'm ready for? The test dates for the SAT and ACTs for the 2015 calendar year are listed above. You can see they're all throughout the year, so it's not something we have to jump at right away, but you also want to consider what's going to be a good time for my student. When can they actually focus on this kind of exam? When can they give it the necessary prep to really give it an honest shot of getting the best score they can get? If they have a very busy spring, May and June, maybe it's more appropriate to do a March, April, or maybe even wait until the fall senior year. We do like students to take it multiple times because they are tests that school, you can send multiple scores to the school, and they tend to take the highest scores in that combination of scores. So it's something that they can, definitely kind of see how it goes the first time, maybe see how they prepare the second time. But again, have conversations with your counselor, encourage your students to come in and see us as well, because we can definitely coach them through this process. And lastly, when they register for the exams, they need to use their full legal name. So basically what's on their birth certificate. They may go by their middle name here, and it may be John, but everybody calls them Jack. You can't register that way because when we send the test scores, or when they send the test scores to the colleges, they create a file for that student. And if the names don't match up, like they put their full legal name on their application, but they had their middle name as their first name on the test scores, it's not going to match up. So it might get misplaced, it might get discarded. If their Staples profile information is incorrect as well, that's the middle name as their first name, we can correct that too. So it's good to get all this stuff squared away this year, so it's not something we have to worry about next year when things start to pick up a little bit more. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm always after PJ. I'm Denise Honeycutt. It's nice to see you here this evening. So the college visit, in my opinion, is the fun part of this whole process. If possible, visit the colleges that your sons and daughters are considering so that they can get a really good feel of what a college is all about. It's important that these kids find colleges that are the right fit, both academically as well as socially. A great time to visit a college is during our February and April vacations, because during those times, colleges are in session, and our students get a great snapshot of what a college really is like. What do the kids look like? How vibrant is the campus? Are the kids smiling? Are the kids talking to them? It really is a wonderful time to visit. Of course, if that's not possible, summer is fine. But really we recommend if you can do it during the school year, it's ideal. We recommend to kids who really don't know where to begin to perhaps start by visiting a school like UConn, because they'll get a sense of a large state school, and then maybe follow that with a visit to a school like Connecticut College or Fairfield University, which is much smaller. And that will give them just a sense of the differences in schools. To arrange a visit, you need to call the admissions office or check the website to make an appointment for a campus visit and information session. In time, as your kids visit more and more schools, it will become apparent to them what fits them, what meets their needs. So keep that in mind and try to do some visiting. Here at Staples, students are allowed 2 excused absences for visiting. So in other words, it doesn't count against their attendance. And they're allowed 2 college visits during their junior year and 2 during their senior year. So I would definitely take advantage of that. The next slide is just a chart we put together. We call it a college comparison chart. This is a chart that your sons and daughters can use to fill in information about a college, because as they start visiting schools, they're going to be taking in a lot of information. It's all going to mush together, and if they have some sort of a chart or some sort of a way to keep all of the information organized, it could help them later on. And this can be downloaded from the Staples website and altered to meet students' specifications. When you do call to arrange a campus visit, be sure to ask the admissions person that you talk to if they grant interviews. Interviews are not done a lot, but they are done every once in a while in the smaller schools. And it's a really good opportunity for a student to get to know a little bit more about a school, and it's a good opportunity for a college admissions person to get to know a lot more about your son or daughter, and perhaps, learn something that's not actually in their application. So make sure you do that. In the spring of this year, we'll be holding a workshop for interviewing, and as well as a workshop for college essay writing. Thanks.
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Curry, and I'm going to talk to you about two of the required parts of the college application that your students do need to start thinking about a little bit earlier. And the first one is the essay. So that does mean that all of your students will be writing at least one essay throughout the college process. And the essay, in my opinion, I think my colleagues would agree, is not the beast that everyone tends to make it out to be. And you have to rest assured that the admissions committees simply want to get to know your students. They simply want to hear their voice, they want to learn something about them, they want to know what's important to them or what they've done. And it's really a piece of the application that rounds everything out, because everything else is really straightforward. It's transcripts, it's test scores, it's very concrete, and this is the opportunity for your child's voice to come through in the application. That being said, we do encourage your student, and therefore you, that they start this process early, that they give it a look over the summer, that they don't leave it till the last minute. Given when many of the deadlines are, the last thing your student wants to do is spend Halloween or New Year's Eve writing or editing their essays. And the second part is teacher recommendations. So for this piece, we'd like you to think about it, and we'll tell your students this, to think about it in two kind of steps. The first one is this spring, and your students will seek out one or two teachers and ask them if they would be willing to write a letter of recommendation. And that's really all they have to do this spring. Next fall, they'll follow up with those teachers, give them all of the concrete information, including the teacher recommendation request form, the colleges that they're applying to, and really sort of solidify that. The goal to leave the school year this year knowing who's writing them, and then next fall it'll really come into play. And when we have the senior coffee and go into the senior English classes, we'll go through more of those details in the fall. The bigger question tends to be choosing the teacher. How do I pick that? And we encourage your students to think about someone that maybe they've had a little bit more of a connection with. And this doesn't have to be the class that they've scored their highest grade in. Sometimes the best and the most informative letters can be ones where the student has maybe struggled a little bit or gotten to know the teacher very well through extra help. So it's really more about how they've interacted in the class and how they've gotten to know the teacher. Both of these pieces, the essay and the recommendations, will be talked about in the individual meetings in the next couple of months. And rest assured, because they are required parts, we will remind your students again at the end of the spring and next fall that both of these pieces will fall into place.
Good evening, I'm Victoria Capozzi. So for those of you who have children who are musicians, artists, actors, singers, dancers, and wish to pursue their craft in college, they most likely will complete an application supplement in the process. That may look in the form of an audition, maybe creation of a CD or DVD or an electronic file of some sort, or a presentation of a portfolio. Each individual college, ladies and gentlemen, or university will delineate the requirements as to what is required and how to present the information on their individual websites or their individual applications. Please be sure to check with each individual school's websites. For those of you who have children who are athletes and who wish to potentially play Division I or Division II sports, must register with the NCAA Eligibility Center to assure that they are academically eligible to play. Please rest assured that our students rarely, if ever, have an eligibility issue. However, it is important to visit page 28 in the planning guide for specific course details, because oftentimes, if your student is a potential D1 or D2 athlete, there are some courses that do not meet eligibility requirements, and they should not choose that course to take. Athletes who wish to potentially play Division III sports should visit each, again, individual college's athletic website, athletic link on its website. One can usually find a prospective student-athlete questionnaire or a form to be completed, which usually facilitates communication between the child, your student, your son or daughter, and the potential college coach. And lastly, for me, if your child is currently in special education, or has a 504 plan with accommodations, we ask that you have a personal conversation with us, as it is your family decision whether or not to disclose this information. Documentation requirements and criteria for determining eligibility at the college level certainly will differ from college to college. Unfortunately, accommodations in high school do not automatically transfer to college. I ask that you please read page 30 in the planning guide for more detailed information. It's very comprehensive. We worked hard on that document.
Hello, I'm Tom Brown. The student description form. So earlier Jen talked about the teacher recommendation letter. This is kind of a supplement for that, in the sense that the teacher recommendation letter is going to be for 1 or 2 teachers who have worked with your student and know them very closely. But a lot of times we have parents and families and students ask us about, well, what about all the other people that want to write and say wonderful things about our wonderful children? Well, the student description form is what allows you to do that. This is something that your child can give to a coach, to a boss, to a supervisor, to somebody they've done community service with, to a glowing neighbor even, if there's somebody that really wants to include some information. And it comes directly to the counselors. It does not go to the schools or the colleges. It's just for us. And it's really an awesome tool for us to use because it helps us to add some vibrance and some more special information about your students to our letters of recommendation that we write. So it comes to us and we incorporate it into our letters. So you can get an idea what it looks like. It's pretty simple. Also, a lot of times, people just email it to us, and that works as well. They don't necessarily have to handwrite it and turn it in. But students can start turning this or handing this out to people as soon as they want, starting this spring. And when they come in, we'll just keep them in a file and use them next year once we start writing our letters of recommendation. And then the last bit for me, awesome thing, awesome resource. College panel night we have is on May 19th. If you can come to this, definitely 100% do come to this. It's an awesome opportunity. What it does is we bring in admissions officers from different colleges all over the country, and they come and speak about the college admissions process. Not specifically for their institution, but as a general concept and the things that happen throughout the process. The reason it's invaluable is this is a flexible, continually changing beast that we address, and these are the people who are on the front lines. So these are the people who work and make the decisions about students every year, and they have the most up-to-date, the most important, and the most accurate information that you can get, really, because they're the ones that are doing it. So a great opportunity for you and your students to attend and to hear what they have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Plunkett. So there are several different types of application plans that students may follow depending on what is offered by the colleges that they're interested in applying to and what makes sense for them as an individual student. This is mainly a consideration starting this summer and into next fall, as students definitely do not need to have it all figured out when they're juniors, but we do want you to at least be familiar with some of the terminology and options that are available. These are described in further detail in the planning guide that you all received. The first one, rolling admission, is probably the simplest plan. You submit an application at any point. The college reviews the applications as they come in, and they send a decision back. It might take as little as a couple of weeks or up to a couple of months. While there's no specific deadline, it's generally best to submit rolling applications during the fall of senior year. Regular decision follows a set deadline, usually sometime after January 1st, by which all application materials must be submitted. Students can be notified anytime after that, but it may not be until the spring. Typically, in regular decision, all the applications a college receives are reviewed in one single round as they look to admit an entire class. There is no binding commitment with regular decision. Early action and early decision follow a similar timeline. There is one specific deadline, which is usually somewhere between November 1st and December 1st. Some colleges offer a second round of early decision 2, in or around January. For both early action and early decision, students hear back sometime in December or January. The difference is that with early action, there is no binding commitment. A student is free to apply to and attend any college that they wish. With early decision, if a student is accepted, they must attend that college and withdraw any other applications. Restrictive early action, also called single choice early action, you might hear referred to that as that, is offered by a handful of colleges. While there isn't a binding commitment to that college, so the student doesn't have to go if they're accepted. They may be limited where else they apply. For example, they may not be able to apply to another college early decision. In addition to the differences in application plans, you'll also hear about the common application and school-specific applications through that school's own website as ways to apply, and more on this to come later. So the single most important thing that students should be doing now is to continue to work hard and do their best in school in appropriately challenging courses, and continue that into senior year. They may want to save any papers that they write, since sometimes a college will accept a graded writing sample as part of the application. Familiarize yourself with Naviance. Use the search engine to generate an initial list of college options. Again, it's okay if there are a lot of colleges on it at this point. Just getting into the flow and asking the questions is a great starting point. When we meet with you and your kids individually, we'll discuss that list, add to it, talk about a timeline for taking the ACT and/or SAT, student description forms, and teacher recommendations. If they don't already have one, now's a good time for kids to set up an appropriate email address for college and start checking it. That's how colleges are generally going to communicate with them, so starting to get into the habit now can be helpful. As far as social media goes, most colleges don't scope out Facebook accounts or anything like that, but if they do have concerns about a student based on other aspects of their application, it's something they may do. Scholarship organizations may also check their profiles. In addition to individual meetings later this year, we'll be meeting with juniors in small groups during one of their lunch waves in May to review where they are in the process and provide further feedback. Then into senior year, things get going quick. Within the first couple weeks of school, we present to all the students in our English classes, hold a program for senior parents going over all the nuts and bolts of the application process. We continue to meet with students and parents in some cases, if need be, individually, as they finalize their list of options, make decisions about when to apply, which test to take, retake, etc., and review their applications and essays. Students attend presentations in the College and Career Center by colleges that they're interested in. Each year we have about 200 colleges that come to visit. And we offer an evening program dedicated to financial aid in October, which is great, really in-depth and informative. And we'll see you there.
Good evening. My name is Deb Slocum, and we always have to finish off with some social developmental information for you, because that's where our hearts lie as counselors. So if you've sat through or watched the Staples High School guidance presentation from your child's freshman and sophomore years, I'm going to refresh your memory that our philosophy is that the best counseling for adolescents, including, not separate from, college counseling, incorporates an understanding of adolescent brain development, as well as acknowledging where an individual child is in his or her development. In addition, we are deeply committed to helping students to develop the confidence and skills necessary to manage the normal bumps and bruises that accompany all of our lives. And I can guarantee you that there will be bumps and bruises in the college admissions process. So much has changed since we were in high school, and one of the biggest changes is the pressure attached to college admissions. College admissions is now what I call big business. This big business sales technique is based on a widespread belief in a cultural myth. That myth is based on a carefully nurtured illusion that if your child attends a prestigious college, he or she will be guaranteed a successful life, a good job, the right partner, beautiful children, and lots of money and happiness. Guaranteed. If, on the other hand, he or she does not attend a prestigious college, it's over. So let's leave aside the long debate about what makes for a good college, and instead focus in on the underlying tenet that if your child achieves a dream admission, your job is done and you have nothing to worry about. I have a 21-year-old, and I can tell you that is not true. I only wish the formula for a happy and successful life was that simple. So the tremendous pressure on Westport parents associated with the college process plays on the illusion that if we put forth enough effort and gain enough knowledge and control over our children's decisions, we can guarantee them happiness. Yet the tough reality is that applying to college is just another developmental milestone. In fact, it's one over which no one, no matter how highly paid, has complete control. We may monitor our children's homework, arrange test prep, hire essay tutors, but no parent can ensure that a given college will admit a child, or for that matter, make a child achieve certain grades or standardized test scores. So instead of focusing on the endless strategizing, I challenge you to accept the college admissions as a business with sometimes unfair practices in which the affluence and image of the college come first, not your child's well-being. In fact, I can guarantee you that the media coverage and marketing inevitably raise anxiety, all meant to increase applications to given colleges, not to guarantee your child admission. Second, long experience has taught us here at Staples that once students graduate from high school, what matters most is their emotional resilience and ability to roll with the inevitable tough times, which happens in everyone's life at every college. We understand that while you may pride yourself on encouraging resilience and you read our Resilience Project emails and you do your best to embrace the mistakes in other aspects of your child's life, many feel that the college process is just too important to be left up to chance. But you can count on us to do all we can to keep you grounded when you lose perspective. We're not advising that you neglect the basics. Help your child stay organized, offer support when needed, and encourage your child to work closely with her counselor. But we offer the following suggestions as well. Number one, limit the number of conversations you have with and without your child about college admissions. These students are already bombarded at school. Hearing it all again at home is exhausting and dispiriting. So set aside one time a week to get yourself organized and to find out what's going on. Do not have every single dinner conversation be about college. And you also don't want to spend every minute of this very special 1.5 semesters that's left talking incessantly about college. Know your child and be realistic. Students are in widely different places and have varying abilities. Accepting your child for who he is will go a long way toward alleviating conflict and angst. With that in mind, perhaps the biggest positive contribution you can make to this process is to collaborate with your child's counselor on a realistic range of responsibilities and of colleges of which you would be proud for your child to attend. Believe me, they're watching your facial expressions all the time. And the kids know if you're really only going to be happy if they get into one of those two reach schools. They know. Do not buy into the belief that there's one perfect college out there for your child. There are any number of schools where he will have the opportunity to be successful. And I'm going to give you a warning. Teenagers often buy the idea of the holy grail college, Klein and Singer. They're out there looking for the perfect fit, which doesn't exist. And they need to hear repeatedly from the adults who care about them that they can be successful at a wide variety of colleges. Maintain your integrity. Send your child the message that she should be authentic throughout the whole process and that compromising one's values is unacceptable and unnecessary. Finally, and most importantly, reassure your child that whatever his final choice is, it doesn't change who he is. He's the same person with foibles, talents, strengths, and dreams. Celebrate his work, whether in the classroom, on the playing field, on the stage, at home, or on the job. Remember that he's only 17 and just getting started. You, however, are older, and you're in it for the long run. That is, your child's life well after this college process is nothing but a distant memory. So think hard and long about the values and messages that you're communicating daily. We can't expect juniors or seniors to keep perspective because they don't have the experience yet. But we're counting on you to communicate your values and, most importantly, your unconditional love. As Mrs. Morgan said, they're still kids. And despite their often gruff exteriors, what they want more than anything is their parents' approval. Thank you.
So we promised you two students, two seniors who've been through the college process. We're going to come on up and they're going to tell you a little bit about what they learned as they were going through it.
accepted early decision to Syracuse University for early childhood education. When I first started the college process last year, I honestly had no idea what I was looking for. I have an older brother who's a year older than me and is now at Boston University, but his interests were completely different than mine, so my family and I basically started from the bottom. I've always been a really big city person and fascinated with history, so my dad and I started by looking at schools in Washington, D.C. The schools are very appealing to me. However, even after looking at those schools, I still had no idea what kind of setting I wanted to be in. I still had no idea what I wanted to do, which is okay considering I'm 17 years old and still have the entire rest of my life ahead of me. I looked at big, small, medium-sized schools, but after looking at about 5 schools, I realized that I leaned towards the medium-sized school, which had a campus but was near a city. In March of 2014, I started a job at a local preschool and I fell in love with it, and that's when I realized that was what I wanted to pursue in college. So immediately after that, I just started looking up a bunch of schools with early childhood education programs. And my guidance counselor, Ms. Hammer, suggested Syracuse, so I went up to look there last year with my dad, and I fell in love with it. It was everything I wanted and more, a city and a campus with a school spirit, but it wasn't an overwhelming amount of people. It's 13,000. Now the college process doesn't just involve picking a few schools, as you learned tonight, and applying. There's also standardized tests, getting recommendations, filling out applications, writing essays, doing interviews. I took a practice ACT and SAT, and the ACT, I didn't even want to look at my score, it was so bad. So the SAT was definitely for me. I took the SAT 3 times. I took it in May, June, and then October of my senior year. Those weekends spent going to bed early on a Friday night and waking up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning weren't very exciting, and sitting through a 4-hour test were not the best of times, but in October, after my last SAT, when I got in the car with my mom, and she greeted me with a sesame seed bagel with cream cheese and lox, made it all worth it. The SAT process was very stressful, but my parents supported me through all the practice tests, practice problems. I endured to do the best I could, so. Now for the college applications. As you learned tonight, many colleges use the site called the Common Application, and also many colleges have their own application. By September of this year, I had my heart set on applying early decision to Syracuse and had no interest in filling out applications to the 9 other schools on my list. I visited other schools and liked them, but they were always compared to Syracuse. I had no interest in learning about other schools. But through it all, my parents always tried me to get to fall in love with other schools, because there's always a good chance, no matter how hard a student tries, that they won't get into the school that they want. For me, early decision was the best option, but there are also many people who early decision isn't right for, or it doesn't work out for, and everyone still ends up turning out to be in a place that they're very happy with. So. Getting excited about many schools as possible made the process a lot easier for me, especially when there was rejection. Filling out all the applications and essays took countless hours, but through my family's support to get it all done, a little at a time, I was able to send in my last college application at the end of November, which was very exciting. The worst part of the entire process was waiting for answers. After I sent in my last application, I was like, when am I going to hear back? I can't keep waiting anymore. But the most exciting thing was when I heard back from my first school, and I got into a school and I was like, I'm going to college, like I'll end up somewhere. That was really nice. But then not getting into a school is very painful too, but you always know that you're going to end up somewhere. So I got over that quickly. My advice for everyone is that every single person finds a place that they can be happy, whether it's their early decision school, a safety school, or somewhere they transfer because they didn't like the first school they went to. The process is stressful, but there's something exciting at the end of the tunnel. So thank you.
And ever since I was a little kid, I knew what I wanted to do in college. I wanted to go play college basketball and go into the Final Four. When I realized that wasn't going to work out, I switched teams to the varsity newspaper team. So starting the college process, I knew that I wanted to go major in journalism. So my first step was literally Googling top journalism schools. I had a list of about 100, eliminated about half of them because they were upward snow, and I'm kind of looking forward to getting away from that. Eliminated them about size too, and just kind of the generic qualities. And then I researched the programs more, the schools more. I had a list down to about 10. The most important thing I did was go visit those schools because there's only so much you can tell from a school by a computer screen or by the stats from that. After that, after visiting all 10 of those schools, I crossed a couple off and got down to 7. That said, I think I personally would recommend doing those visits as a junior. I know that it's not going to work out for everyone, and that's fine. For me, doing them as a junior was really nice just because there's so much to this process, and there's just one thing that I could get out of the way for senior year. I also would recommend trying to get your standardized testing done as a junior. Again, that's not possible for everyone, and that's totally fine. Everyone's got their own system going, process. That in mind, I took an SAT twice, March and May. I got it done junior year. I didn't have to worry about it senior year. Also, I'd recommend taking advantage of breaks and weekends because you've got so much homework, you've got tests Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You've got so much work in addition to the college applications and the essays. So you take advantage of the breaks, February break, all of them. But everyone's process is different. So what I'm recommending may not be perfect for your student, and that's totally fine. So I had 7 applications due, October, November, December. I tried getting them in a week or two before. Didn't always work out. Lastly, I think there's a lot, as a junior, this time last year, I felt that I had to apply ED, and that was what I was going to do. That's what I thought. That's what everyone did. You don't have to apply ED. If your favorite school doesn't have an early decision like my favorite school, it's not worth applying to some other school, trying to find another school to ED to. It's not worth it. I ended up applying to a school that I thought I was going to apply ED to, just as regular decision, and I'll be fine. But again, everyone has a different process and a different timeline, and what's most important is finding out what process and what timeline is going to work for y'all. So thank you.
I just want to thank Jackie and Bailey again. They were awesome, and that's true. I mean, I really heard what they went through, so not censored by me or anyone else, so that was it. So there will be up on the screen the rooms that you're going to be going to. When you're in the rooms with your counselor, you'll have a chance to ask questions. We'll give you an evaluation form to fill out, but we really want to spend some time with you to try to really understand some of the things you have some particular interest in or questions about. So thank you so much for coming. We'll see you up in the rooms.